Totally forgot. I was just so glad that boxing is back in a big kind of way. So I put the post up and then I looked back and I was like, oh my God, he fighting Kell Brook. So I reached out and chatted with Kell Brook on Instagram, and he's going to be on the show in December and stuff. But it was just too late at that time. And for more reasons than not, I want people to realize and understand what this show is truly about. It's not about just these events, it's perspective. And we comb through and dig out the substance. So it's irrelevant when I talk to anyone because the substance is always relevant. And that's what our focus is. So he'll be on in December. I think it's the 5th. Don't quote me. You'll see the flyer. You'll see the event posted onto the page. So just tune in as we peel back the layers of one of today's top fighters, former world champions, and one of the top athletes around the globe. I have a lot of respect for Kell Brook, but I was just excited that Terrence Crawford came back. So as you peel back the layers and think about this fight, and I want you guys to chime in as well, because I'm about to put a few questions up here for you guys, for all my audience who I definitely want to be able to chime in. So Otis, I want you to take the floor and ask my people, what do you think the key factors in this matchup is before we actually go into the matchup like we did before in the Intangibles? What do you think when you first heard this fight made? And this also applies to you out here in the viewing audience. When you first heard this fight, and I know everybody from the UK is going to say, we gonna win. But what was the first thing that went through your mind? The first thing, just flashback, man. Yeah, because they just biased that way, but it's okay. Hey, home team.
The first thing that went through my mind was, first of all, how mentally tough Kell Brook is, and the different avenues or the different aspects of the game that Bud has. So that's
Okay.
what makes it probably going to be like the fight of the year, I would think. People don't really realize how physically gifted
Big.
Kell Brook is. His
Yeah.
size, they got him listed as 5'9", and I stood next to him at the Sean Porter fight, and I got to say he has to be at least 5'10", maybe 5'10 and a half.
He big.
But
Yeah.
that could have been because he was next to Sean. He might have gave the illusion
Look
that
bigger.
he's taller. Yeah, but his ability to counterpunch and to
Yeah.
lure people in
Yeah.
will play a big part, and the power in both hands.
Yeah.
And he's a very stubborn guy mentally. Like a lot of people after the big, his two losses, the one that kind of derailed his career by going up to
Yeah.
160
Yeah.
to fight
Bad
Triple
management.
G. Yeah. That was one thing, but then to come back less than a month and a half later and fight the Truth, Earl Spence, over in the UK.
Yeah.
And people going, hey, why so fast? And he's like, no, I'm not going to give up my belt. I'm going to defend my
Yeah.
title. And, I can kind of compare it to what happened to Roy Jones as far as with
Yeah.
Tarver,
Yeah.
with the fight going up to heavyweight and coming back down.
Yeah.
The body was spent.
Yeah.
I don't think that we got the best Kell Brook in that situation.
Yeah.
And who knows? But at the same time, a star was born in Errol Spence,
Yeah.
and we might have not seen that had Kell not taken that dice roll at 160. And that just says a lot about his demeanor and his purpose in the world. He doesn't believe that anybody can fade
No.
him, on the
But
slang.
well, and that's one of the things that in a fight game, I have to really lean in on the people that are in my fraternity and under the tutelage, is that we have to protect our investments from bad choices, because if there was no one managing fighters, there would be no undefeated fighters because somebody can beat everybody. And
Exactly.
that's one of the things that Kell Brook was not really held responsible for. They felt a little guilty because he hadn't been active. And I'm sure the pressure was on Eddie Hearns. There's nothing worse. And I'm talking to my amateur coaches and
Mhm.
who are not very experienced in the professional ranks. The pressure will change from your fighters whenever they get to the pros and they're not getting fights. It's not like amateur events. You can just go get in some, go jump in a tournament or two. This is the professional ranks and everything matters. One of the things that I want you also to keep in mind is whenever you're fighting a athlete, it's all about patience. That is not to be understated because one of the things that happens is other business has to be handled. And sometimes you feel like you're on the back burner. But I will never back off of what I say and tell these coaches that are under my tutelage in the brand that you better listen, because if your athlete is jumping out of line, pushing making it feel like they're ready to hop ship because they want to go fight, look, you can have a very long talk with them, but the end result is what happened to Kell Brook, wanting to fight someone like Triple G, 2 weight classes above him, and he was born at 160 pounds. So not only was he 2 weight classes above him, he never fought at another weight class other than 160. So he's truly a real 160. You cannot pretend that eating and lifting weights is going to cover up the level of body dexterity that has to be imposed upon you to get to the level of fighting. Anything that I give you pushback on is because I already know 1000%. And if you don't know, you're going to learn. So I always make it very clear. You can listen or not, but I'm going to give you pushback because you don't know a lot. Because there's so many different levels and so many different moving pieces in the sport. Kell Brook, 1000%, I knew he was going to win. Lose. Even when he was winning the early rounds with Triple G, I was like, okay, we call that front running. And this is the knock that I have on trainers who allow their fighters to dictate how they're going to do what they do. Because it's okay to lose early rounds if you're a front runner, because that way you've allowed yourself energy to operate later in the fight where there's a better chance to take the person late. But you want to come out and show that you can fight so bad that you just go ahead and take that. And that's kind of what I always feel like. There are very few athletes that can train directly up under me after shit get real, because I call it real. And I ain't going to let you run shit. I'm going to keep it 100 and I'm going to stay the boss because I have to. I have to keep everything in perspective. All of the stuff you don't know that your ego going to make you feel like you can do, and your impulse. So with that being said, I want to take a moment and let the fans chime in because everybody's chiming in. Crawford, a Brit of throwback. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is really like Hagler kind of deal. Duran, that's the level. He got a big heart with the skill, and very intuitive. Very good, Peter Lucas. You are very wise on that, brother. Good stuff. Everybody's talking. Let me see who else got something else. Namaste, brother. What's good? We got a brother who into the yoga, which is the stuff. All see in the building. Birthday was beautiful, man. I had a great time. This is Paul. Paul is the one who's really encouraged us to bring on next week's guest, and George Ferocious Cambosis. You know, IBF.
Yeah.
He's the Pan Pacific lightweight champion, and he'll be on next week, guys. So thanks to Paul. We appreciate that. It was very enlightening to see this guy. And for those of you who have not seen this kid fight, he can fight. I was
Yeah,
looking to,
he's a Jeff Finch type guy. You know,
yeah,
all Aussies, you know, they might
yeah,
not have the most beautiful repertoire of skill, but one thing
yeah,
they're gonna do is fight.
bring it. Michael Katsidis mixed with Ricky Hatton. I
Yeah.
seen angles. I seen hellacious body punching,
Mhm.
hellacious body punching, and committed to the body. And when you're a fighter, that's one of the hardest things to do and really make it a part of your repertoire. So, Paul, we thank you for doing that, brother. That was big time. This young man is star quality 1000%. He will be on the show. So, you guys make sure you check it in, and we will be getting it popping with him next week. So, I'm looking forward to that. So, that was my fine. I want to make sure that we stay on the course, and now we're going to really delve in. So, intangibles. I spoke with the Lopez fight, Lomachenko, and we were talking about ring IQ. So, when it's all said and done, I don't know what Crawford's made of because he can start strong, he can start very consistent, and he can end a fight in the 12th round. When it comes down to ring IQ, that's what I measure. I don't measure the skills. So I always do this, Otis. I tell my guys, everybody can get skills. Why you think it's a million skills on a page? But how can you put that together? That's not a recipe. Fighting is a recipe. That's the only way you can cook, baby. You got to have the recipe. You got to have the sauce. I don't care how great you bake that chicken for, how long it baked. It's gonna be tender, but you gotta have the sauce. You gotta have some ingredients with it. You ain't gonna just grab a chicken off the farm, don't even pluck it, throw it in the oven, and because you cooked it long enough that it's gonna be yummy, it takes a recipe. Therefore, I'm gonna ask you, who has the better ring IQ? Not skills. See, that's where people get confused. Skills and ring IQ are not the same thing. The floor is yours.
I believe that definitely we all know that Crawford can go from both sides and everything, and one of the things that gets Bud, and I'm the biggest Bud fan in the world. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
message, talk to him all the time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched him coming up in the amateurs before he was a pro. Um,
Yeah.
but one thing about Bud is that he gets in situations where he with his skill set, like you said, he could quite easily make every fight very easy and very boring. And I think that
Yeah.
he's getting frustrated because people think because he makes fights look easy that he's not fighting nobody and that he's
Slave.
not doing stuff.
Yeah.
So he gets in a mode sometimes that I don't like, and it actually gets very scary. I know when he fought the Russian guy, where he forces his agenda on another fighter, and he don't
Yeah.
got to do that with his skill. He could easily pick anybody apart. So with the
Yeah.
question that you're asking, I'm gonna have to go with Kell Brook because Cal actually knows. Is a saying out there, youngsters. A wise man knows his limitations. Cal can
Yes.
do everything that Bud can do without a
Yeah.
doubt, but he
Yes.
knows what he does best, and you will
Yeah.
very seldom see him get out of that
Yeah.
silhouette of what he does best, and that's
Yeah.
why I got to go with him on that.
Okay. Well, I think that when I see, I'll take that. And anybody, you guys out there who watching, feel free to chime in what your perspective is when it comes down to these guys matching up. And I know that Kell Brook is 1000% UK bound, and the fans understand that he got the skill, he got the techniques, he knows how to make adjustments. When you have those components, you don't see anything wrong with yourself. So when I use the term levels to this, Crawford knows when to turn it on and when to go in cruise control and you not know it. So, like we showed and have in the Philly Shell kind of program that I teach, it's 2 hours of just insight. And what happens is I'm showing guys when guys are resting. And whenever I'm in the ring working with my fighters and pushing them, a lot of times I have to say, remember the drill. You got to act like you understand that it's time to not use your legs or gas yourself out. That takes repetition. And a lot of people do not pay attention to the rep word, and they overlook it, and they don't understand that it's an exercise that you have to do over and over and over and over again. Because you've been tired. You went out there and shot the wad with Andre Ward. You've been in there. You understand, like, oh man, what did I do? Shane Mosley did it when he hit Floyd, and he
Yeah.
gassed out. That was all. It was gassed out, and Floyd was composed. And knowing the miles per hour that you're supposed to operate when you're tired to recover, understanding your heart rate, heartbeat. You don't need to put your finger on your pulse. You understand that by muscle memory, how many punches you need to throw. I like how Keith Thurman does it. He jumps ropes in the ring while he's watching his opponent, and he's jumping at the pace that his opponent is fighting. And that's what he does. He'll pace himself and train in his conditioning according and go a little bit above that guy. Brilliant. And it really seemed brilliant before he lost to Pacquiao. It was like that's the secret sauce. Understanding and counting the punches and knowing that he has to throw several more of those clean and effective. The amount of lessons that has to be taught to these guys in the sport is the reason why I have it in a course. So it's like you got to learn all of this and you can't forget any of it. So you have it here. So you have always a way to refer back to it. And you're going to have to do it all the time. When I look at Kell Brook, I feel like he has all of the stuff: strength, size, abilities. I see him doing a lot of weight still. When I see him, I say he's the guy who still acts on impulse. Impulse meaning I want to go fight Mike Tyson, but I'm not going to do it because it ain't a great business decision. I want to go fight Triple G because I can do it. You do got the skills. You should have the confidence, but you should be fighting people that's going to build your reputation and build your muscle memory in the ring, meaning the stuff you learn, you'll be able to use it. Sparring does not transfer into the ring. The fight, the gloves are a different size. You don't have headgear. So here are many more lessons that we have to learn. So I want to make sure that when I say ring IQ, that means you really know when to put and turn things on and turn things off and use other stuff. Like I got a skills book. I mean, I got a lot of them, but I got a skills book that was written. And Otis, it shows you all that in between stuff that nobody's doing. Or every once in a while you'll do, the entanglements and how to use that, how to make the moves to just not be on the line. Just little subtle things, how to manipulate the arms, like you're in jujitsu or something, but standing and boxing, how to really position all of these little things. So all of these things are tactical things. That's kind of what we do. So when it goes down to it, we're going to go next. Who has the better corner between these two? So I know if you're already associating with Crawford that you're very familiar with his corner. Who has the better corner? I don't even know who's working Kell Brook corner right now.
Me neither. Me neither. I think he might have switched up a bit.
And that's
Um,
another problem.
and that is a problem because I don't know how long they've been working together, but I want to say I read that he did switch corners, so I would definitely go with Bud. They've been together forever. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
and he knows all of Bud's capabilities as far as like conventional to southpaw, to switching up stuff. I remember him getting hit by the East European kid in the last fight that we saw him in, and getting yelled at about it because again, at this level, it only takes a very minute mistake. It doesn't matter if
Oh
you
my
were
God.
supposed to beat a guy or if you're not supposed to beat him. If you make that one mistake,
Curtains.
it's like the shark smelling blood in the water is over, and you might get Gator Road at the end of the day. So I would definitely say that's an easy pick, and you have to go with Bud on that.
Yeah, yeah. It's very important that the people understand that. I see Secret Garden Bay. Uh, that's your Philly shell. That link is down in the comment box. I want you to realize one thing with these guys. The Philly shell is not what people think it is. It's so many different variables to it, and so many different layers to this skill set. And it's a lot of stuff that you would have no idea that would be in a skills teaching, because it really teaches you the fiber of what it's like to be inside of a fight, on top of learning how to defend yourself from different positions and angles, in the corners, off the ropes, inside the paint, learning how to walk a person down, learning how to be offensive inside of a defensive counterpunch style. It's so
That's the
many
most
different
important.
wrinkles. It's so many different wrinkles. So for those who are looking at that, it's down there, and the link is down in the comment box under your comments. So, but when I see this guy really positioning himself, Bud Crawford has such an ability to fight. You got to realize this guy started out as a pretty much a slick kind of boxer. I haven't seen a slick boxer. Sugar Ray Leonard. I categorize him with Sugar Ray Leonard because Sugar Ray Leonard was mean as hell. He just looked good, and people associated looking good with not being able to fight and not being mean. But just because I got 7 Up or Sprite 7 Up, filling 7 Up commercials, don't mean that I can't kick your anus banus. I'm mean. Like, I just got a good smile, but that doesn't mean I like you. I really have
And
a
he's from
bad attitude.
Baltimore.
And he from B-more. Yeah. And he can really, really fight. When I look at Bud Crawford, it looked like he started out as a slick boxer. And the first match that I watched him, he did knock the guy out, but he punished him. And I was like, well, this kid gonna be okay. Had a very good confidence. And I said, all right, we'll see what happens with him. But I never saw him becoming a violent knockout guy. When I look at the Charlo brothers, I saw that moment from them knocking no one out to really getting that, what we call the dexterity, and being able to punish guys in the ring. Ronnie Shields and Coach Derek James both worked with these guys. Ronnie Shields with Jamal, and Derek James with Jamel. When those guys started to settle down, and I always make it clear to my guys in the school that transitioning from amateur to pros is a transition. You're not going to just be a knockout artist when you transfer. That is developed. Now, unless you're fighting bummity bums, cab drivers, then that can happen, because you're fighting guys that are not going to make you better. It's just going to make it harder for you later when you get to that 12th, 13th, 14th fight. Your body will break down if the dexterity isn't in place. And what I make it clear is I created another thing, and I'm not trying to talk about stuff that I've created, but I hated that so many of the amateurs, we had a lot of elite amateurs in our program. Teddy Atlas loved when he heard somebody coming from our camp, because he knew he was going to see a pure throwback, old school, very highly skilled fighter. And on ESPN, I got tons and tons of video at Teddy Atlas knowing, and just giving and then it was like he became very biased towards us, and it was like, hey, this is awkward, because now it's like people thinking we got fights set up. Well, of course, that's not the case because now you know me. Then I was very behind the scenes on the low, and it wasn't social media back then like that. So the skill sets and development and the transitioning from amateurs to pros, and anybody out there who's an amateur, shouts out to one of my top students and coaches out in New York, Thomas Hemingberg. So if you guys are out in New York, make sure that you go out here and check out their gym. Thomas, make sure you put the name of your gym up here, please. And I'm gonna leave your name on the screen. But it took so much work to create a program that is built only like that. That's only from transitioning you to the professional ranks from an amateur ranking. Shakur Stevens figured it out. He said, man, I couldn't figure it out. I could beat guys up in the amateur and stop them. I got to the pros. I was like, Cat's dexterity is different, dude. And when he started hitting guys, it was like Shane said it when he was hitting Winky Wright. It felt like I was wearing pillows on my hand. Like I couldn't. He said, and Winky Wright did what? Put his hands down and said, hit me, and he hit him.
Yeah,
And
he got in trouble for that one.
yeah, he got in trouble for
Dan
that.
didn't
You
like
better
that.
believe it. Yeah. Let me see. Guys, do you think that someone will start teaching the style Ali Holmes and Sugar Ray use? Well, yeah, that's kind of like fighting off your back foot, a lot of it. Using the jab immensely and learning how to keep your head off the line, which is a very, very underrated art. And most people can't do it. Even guys who are wearing titles, they just haven't met the right guy yet. One of the things that we take pride in doing is building people. So, and I'm going to answer that question for you, Robert Purvis. Uh, but with the program that I built, I'm gonna put it up here on the screen so you guys can see it. It is the punch pad for pros. I call it Midmaster 3, but it just isn't be given because it was a part of my Midmaster series, Otis. So I was like, man, this thing has to have its own, it has to have its own like name. And how can I really, how can I really make this? Let me pull it down here. I couldn't figure out how to. So here it is. Oh, this is Punch Pad for pros, right? And what you learn in this program is how to punch pronate punches and down jabs, which are the most devastating jabs to get caught with because it cuts through, and understanding the bazooka jab like Ike Corte and the step jab and drag your feet. A lot of Mexicans use similar techniques to this for power. But when you are when you're amateur, no matter if you're elite or not, you can pepper a guy, you can beat a guy up. But when you become a professional fighter, you got to be able to punch. Key word being punch and knock a man out. And if you don't understand the layers in which these skill set come under the banner, then you will never be able to do it. That's why you see guys, there are guys in front of them ready to get knocked out, and they can't get them out of there. They're looking for an excuse, and you can't get them because you haven't figured out those other punches. And what you're seeing right there is George, amateur champion, transitioning into pro, and doing one of the pronate punches, which is right, straight right, but it's not actually straight. And what that does is it just breaks through the bone, and they not even thrown hard. Some UFC fighters do it sometimes, but they're not conscious of what it is in a whole arsenal. And you see them getting knockouts and stuff, but they're not educated. And it's so many layers of what we call the dirty boxing, when you're learning how to use other parts of your body to anchor the punch instead of just throwing a technical punch. That's why I put a skill out there and people say, well, that ain't how it's supposed to be done. Like, no, it's not. That's why I want you to get in the ring with some of my guys so they can show you why we do it like this. You get it? Like, it's not a basic boxing technique. It's elite. And when we speak to it, we say it's levels to this game. Which level are you? Or did you just really answer your question? You just answered my question because you don't know what it is. And so therefore that's Punch Pad for Pros. That's down in the description. I got just, man, these things are just relevant, man. And don't think I had all the time in the world to do these things. These things are just necessary because I came up in an era where guys really could fight, guys really could punch, and the teachers stand out because the game got a lot more shady, and people weren't passing down their secrets and their arsenal. And that's why the game thinned out. And you got a bunch of these trainers popping up. I coach, throw a towel on my shoulder. That's not what it is, man. You can't, yeah, yeah, but you know, who's to tell them they can't? So, this young man was asking, guys, do you think that someone will start teaching? And that's what we do. We teach people the fiber of these styles. We got the Masterful Footwork program and stuff, where you look at Kell Brook. That's what you think you do. Out in the UK, Otis, we were talking about East Coast and West Coast. But if you really think about in the East Coast and West Coast, when you go out to the UK, man, they really do a lot of great footwork training. The difference is it's limited. It's limited because there are a lot of other different languages of footwork. So you got to get it all. But I love the level of professionalism and attention to detail that they have. And so many other people from the UK are purchasing our training teachings. And I like to give a special shout out to the people who have been ordering as of late. So these are our highlighted customers. Alex Best from London. We'd like to shout you out, Alex, and thank you. And Mathia Hoop from the Netherlands. Paula Zimmerman from New Jersey. Anthony Smith from North Carolina. Jennifer Brown from LA, your part of town. Sebastian Sursalat, France. Sursalet, sorry. Josh Carhila, Mexico. This is where people are coming from who are learning about master boxing and what we're doing. Brandon Dorman, Massachusetts. We give a special shout out. Your next products, make sure we got you in our email database. 30% off of your next stuff for being, loyal, honest customers and learning and wanting to learn more. And there's so much more because we do not teach just the basics. We take it to levels, and trust me, it's the antidote. But yeah, so young man, Robert, we are making sure that we teach not just the base foundation, but what goes on to it. Maybe one of the fighters in your camp will follow the path of Larry Holmes or Ali because he could. Did you remember Larry Donald?
Oh,
Larry Donald and Riddick Bowe called him in the bam bam. I got to get Riddick Bowe on the show too, because you got to hear him tell the story. We talked on the phone. He told me this story. I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to let Riddick tell it. I'm going to get Riddick on the show. Larry Donald really was very similar to Muhammad Ali. He was in our training camp, and very good fighter, beautiful ability in the ring, very athletic. His legs, man, his calves were crazy. And to watch him bounce, I was like, yeah, so certain guys, if that's kind of your attributes, you lean that way and take what you can from him, we polish it, and then you take it to the next level into who you truly are inside of that ring. So that was a great question, Robert Purvis. Definitely a great cap. If we find somebody in the heavyweight division or even in the middleweight division that got a jab like Holmes, whew, that jab will deliver you, boy. It'll take you.
Fast Eddie Chambers out of Pittsburgh, matter of fact,
yeah,
had a great jab and
yes, he did.
and some great footwork and angle ability. And if you ever get a chance to watch him fight Sam Peters, you will see how important the jab is in setting up the right hand off of the jab at different levels.
Yeah.
But Fast Eddie, probably when it comes to a Larry Holmes type style, and that's going back to that PA. Maybe he tapped into some archives that was left behind of how Larry was trained in PA. But But yeah, he comes to mind when you talk about that style.
Yeah, he did. He was very good, very fast. And one of the things I did appreciate him, uh, when you brought up Sam Peter, I just was talking about him yesterday. When we talk about taking fights and being smart, and then I'm gonna elaborate on what you just said for the viewing audience and for those guys out here in the school of boxing, and for you take a moment in Freeport Fitness Solutions in Freeport, New York. Thomas Himmelberg. Any coach that stays educated, follow them, and that man does. He's under the tutelage School of Boxing. Very brilliant, smart. You'll get a lot. Go out to Freeport Fitness Solutions out in Freeport, New York. This guy's the real deal. So special shouts out to you, brother. Sam, I say back to this topic, when you have the the opportunity to fight someone, it's not always good. Like Kell Brook did, just jumped in the ring with Triple G. Well, Sam Peter reached out to us years ago, and his team offered us for a world championship fight $15,000. What? We had just fought Brian Minto out in California. Mm-hmm. So his team saw what we were bringing, and they really didn't want that smoke. So they bid themselves out. And of course, there was a decline on our end. And there was just no money in that. And it's not worth the camp. You can't even pay anybody. Because I know I'm not doing no camp for no, $3,000-$4,000. You get in the camp with me. And what I brought, I was doing a lot of medical stuff, rehabilitation stuff with the fighters as well, on top of the helping market and promote and train. My cup would runneth over, to say the least. And we declined that because it wasn't a bad business deal, and it just doesn't make sense. So therefore, you have to make sure that you make choices that make business sense as well. But Fast Eddie had a great jab, and he flickered it, pop, 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 and it could just really disrupt you in his speed and ability and willingness, and not being a real heavyweight too. Was just it shows you what a jab can do. So you definitely right on that, my brother. We got some other people dropping some stuff out here. So like I said, once again, Thomas Himmelberg, the School of Boxing, Freeport Fitness Solutions, Freeport, New York. Go check them out. Pull them up on the web as well. And make sure you go check out some of the top coaches in the game coming out. Let me see what my man got. Do you think their movement? I'm speaking on how they use their feet for defense. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Defense. You need feet for defense. You need hands for offense. But when it's all said and done, you don't box with your hands. Even when you're throwing punches, you box with your feet. Another great question, another great statement from Robert Purvis. Welcome aboard, brother. I see you got another one there. Damn, my son is 8 years old. Get him started. We stayed in Atlanta, and I took him to the gym at 5, and he stayed on his toes. He's a natural. He probably got the natural art and everything. You don't do that if it's uncomfortable. The gym wanted to sponsor him, but my health got bad, and we were forced to move. Oh, man, that's sorry to hear that, but don't play the victim. Use it as energy. There's no gym here. Do you have a step program that I can work? Yeah, you can just go up here, and a link will be put in the description for the best one is Masterful Footwork Volume 1. And what that does is it just really keeps it really, really simple at the beginning stages. When you got a young child like that, he has to understand that it has to become like breathing to him. So he has plenty of time to develop and stuff like that. So just stay conscious of that. I'll make sure that I put it in the comment box, or I have our team drop it in the comment box. Click out there. You can go to masterboxingllc.com and pull up footwork. And when you're teaching your young child, it's very important that you understand that you're grooming him. You're not just teaching them, you're grooming him, because when they start becoming conscious and that repetition of boxing steps in and starts to be a part of him. My son, I'm not planning on him being a boxer, but Archie Moore's daughter Jay, she was like, saw a video of him, and he loves doing it, and I don't refute it. And I'm gonna show them something real quick. Over there is the Oculus, and the Creed virtual reality game is on. And if any of you have not gotten that Oculus game, or if you got the PlayStation 4 and you haven't gotten that Creed, I'm telling you, I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning, woke up, and I just put that thing on. Otis, I was like 10 years old again, watching Sugar Ray Leonard on TV, man. I ain't never felt like that before. You look up and the fighter right in front of you, like in your freaking game room. You look
Stress level.
around. No, yeah, yeah, but you look down and Rocky standing around there like, I mean, the fans, it is so crazy. So you'll feel exactly like you did when you was fighting for your titles because the energy, what they've done with that game. And they're not sponsoring me, and I'm not getting paid to speak about, but the Oculus Rocky game, everybody needs to get it, and y'all need to lock in and start working, online doing that. It's crazy, unreal. I mean, the feeling they've captured. So a lot of people wanting Fight Night Champion to come back, but it's here. It's just called Creed. It is dope. It is dope. It is dope. It is dope. And hopefully we could probably get Michael B. Jordan up here and talk about that. Because man, that was awesome. But yeah, man, the footwork program and all of that. Maybe I can put it down here in the comment box while I talk. So Otis, who has the hot sauce?
You got to go with Terrence Crawford. Bud definitely has a hot sauce. We've never seen anything like him in the sport of boxing. As far as like, I've always been trying to. I know the answer because I've asked the question, but I'm
Yeah,
always trying to figure out what side is he better on. What side is he more comfortable on, and
yeah.
um, and for you to have to try to figure that out, there's only probably one other person, and I don't know if you remember Mike Sims from the
Yes, yeah, yeah,
96
yeah.
Olympic
Yeah,
team.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's probably the only person that can duplicate fighting from both sides equally at that level.
Mhm.
And I had a chance as a pro, of course, to learn from Mike Sims and be
Yes, I
around him
remember him.
in training here in
Yeah.
Sacramento. But yeah, but that's got the hot sauce has to be with Bud. I mean, you can't even people don't understand it, and because you put on fight camps, you can't even prepare for somebody like Bud. How do you prepare to fight Terrence Crawford? Like,
Make it, you just do what you got to do is what make it ugly, uncharacteristic fight. You can't let him
yeah,
get off with his stuff. I mean, so that's a wrinkle that I show as well in the art of sparring training download. And my guy Robert Purvis, I'm going to make sure you get 30% off of that order too, man. So um leave us a message in Master Boxing or on the website. I want to make sure you get that for your son. But what we showed these guys is the things that you're going to see when you didn't expect to see certain things in the ring, Otis. So when you fight a guy like this, so I made my guys, we actually have video, but we don't put real sparring on social media, but I have them on YouTube locked up, right? So I got to show you some of the things that I showed them how to do in the ring when a guy is nice. Like we fought Chris Bird, he blew us out of the water, uh, but it wasn't because of skill. The skill was there. It was like you try to box with Chris Bird, you don't go there. You got to make it an ugly fight. So therefore, it was a ugly night. When a fighter is at that point, when you fighting them and he's able to have his space, The only ugly fights that you saw Floyd in was Castillo when he got pressing him, and what's his face, the Baldemir and Maidana,
Madonna. Yeah,
and they and then Cotto, 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds. He
yeah.
figured out
I give
I
him a
can't.
pass for Cotto because he had, coming out of prison and being used to
Well, he was getting ready to go to prison, and so his brain was that
no, no, no,
he
no. He came back from prison, right?
mm-mm. That was
Floyd.
his last fight, and then he shot 30 Days in May. Go watch it on 30 Days in May. You know I keep it up.
Okay. All right.
So he,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
fought him in May, Cinco de Mayo, and went to
yeah,
jail in June, or it was June or June, and then he got out in like August, September. Remember,
yeah.
they did 3 months.
You
So
know
yeah,
that's actually funny because again, being here in Sacramento and having been trained by Ray Woods at one point in time, uh, Floyd Mayweather actually used that to his advantage when fighting Diego Corrales. He knew that Diego was going through certain stuff and had to, of course, do a prison stint. And so he offered him a fight on short notice and, and,
yeah,
and everything. So it's crazy that would come full circle and happen to him also.
hey, yo, if
God's a
you,
comedian.
he's a comedian, but look, no, I mean, I was check tripping off you, and then my man was sending a shout out to dude at the same time, my man Paul, who left that comment. So I got to make sure that he hear that. But you tripping me out, Otis. Crawford, make sure you tell Crawford that Paul said good luck and on the fight, and he saw him here when they fought. Oh my gosh, the Hanna brothers they're a law firm, so those are the guys that handle what's his face, Horn out there, Jeff
Yeah,
Horn and stuff. So they hit me day before yesterday. So I got to get those guys on it. Those guys, they really they working out there in Aussie, man, because they like the big name law guys, Sean Hannay and his brother. And I mean, people don't understand, man, when you at this level of the game, especially when your fight is doing great. I was going back and forth with him all the time. When you start doing bad, boy, time it gets so much. And this is what I'm trying to prevent from my fighters, my coaches, my trainers and the personal trainers. There are a lot of guys who coming on who didn't have a career or started late, and they are really taking great pride in learning how much really goes into it. The thing about it is some of these guys who were amateurs before and got a little taste of it, you they can they realize they learning a lot, but your head can get big, man. Your head got to stay small. I remember learning techniques and stuff, and as you get up the ladder, you realize, man, them techniques don't mean nothing if you don't have humility, because
yeah,
somebody's gonna shut you down. And
yeah,
that's the thing, man. Don't be arrogant. You can have your moments of confidence, but it's so much that you don't know. Next to some of the people and that were in our camps, you can still go in there and do camps and do drills. You ain't seen none of them, and you already think you know everything. But then you can get in there and not see anything that's familiar to you because there's levels to this stuff. So don't underestimate that. And so our fraternity is real, and I will never fall back on my sturdiness and sternness to prevent you from making the mistakes, you know. And so my steps will prevent you from doing it. Like a father and a
mm,
good leader will not bow down for you to learn something the hard way. A good leader will just excoriate you from their circle, because I don't want to be responsible for your lack of awareness, man. But when these guys get into that ring and you see it, you got to be able to fight an awkward fight. And you have to understand how to do it, the skill set in which it took to do it. And I had a guy, his name was Brandon Cabell, 6'7". I tell this story a lot of times, not just one story, but about Beast was his nickname. and he was 6'7", shoes off. He can go into the gym, do 15 rounds, and then go do 15 miles. 267 pounds, was 6'7", and was the next great thing. And with a coach that wanted to push him faster, he wanted to leave, and he came down here for like 2 years almost, and we
Mm.
took him and groomed him, went to training camps. He grew up with Hasim Rockman, and
Mm.
Hasim Rockman, he said, Coach, every time we get in the ring, man, and walk in the gym, he'd be all nice, like, yeah, what's up, man? How did it begin? You know, everything good. He said everything will be good. And then he said, yo, as soon as they ring the bell, I'm gonna come out and be like, boom. And he
Business
was like,
time.
yo, he said, so I couldn't, he said, I never could really get through that. And he said he just had this psychological edge on me. Uh Fleming saying the thrill of the fight in VR. I'll check it out. I'm new to this VR thing, but so he came down here and we trained and we went. I had a couple of my other fighters go help Klitschko out in Australia, getting ready for Tony Tucker, and boom, we getting it in. And I said, look, this kid John Hagler. John Hagler was 17-0, 6'4", 245. All these guys were super great, man. Our camp, I can't, and I'm not knocking no camp. We had so many great fighters uh in that camp. I don't think you can you can go pick a top 30 and can't match this camp. Like the level of eliteness from amateur to pro is unmeasured. And we all know it. And we all have been in world champion camp. It's just not that many top to
Mm.
bottom. Then you walk around the gym, you got Justin Gatlin, Mashia Barber, you got what's her name? Uh the female that did all we had Sean Crawford. It's 6 gold medalists. Then you got Ray Mercer. All of them. I mean, like we had like 30 gold medals in the gym, plus a crazy professional cachet. It was crazy. But this dude was fighting, sparring against him. And I said, look, John Hagler's slick. Even though he's 6'4", he fight like Roy Jones. And he's southpaw. And I mean, he
Mm.
fight like Roy Jones, Roy Jones in his prime. And he could, he was slick and hand low guard, extended, could control your hands and could control your feet. 6'4", 245, in perfect shape. Built like LL. You know what I'm saying? just just a freak. Just a freak. Like you're not supposed, you do know, and drove trucks on the side, but he was sparring Beast, and Beast 6'7". He was like, yo, coach, this dude is a problem. And because he knew how to control and use the ring. So I'm telling everybody out there in the fight game, you're gonna run across these things. Elite guys who don't believe they supposed to ever lose. His name was John Hagler, so he had the right to be good and was a southpaw. I don't know if his parents trained him that way from the gate because of Hagler, but when they got in the ring, I said, it's not gonna make a lot of sense to you now, but Beast, trust me. I said, jab inside of his shoulder blade and don't stop. And the first round he came in there, he said, I trust you, coach. But he wouldn't do it. So John boxed his eyes off the first round. I came back and I said, I'm gonna explain this really clear. There's no other game plan to use to beat this guy because he's slippery, he's quick, and he's super slick. And the only way to hit a cutie is not to aim at their head. And you really, it's hard to aim at the body. So you got to aim the widest part of his frame inside of the shoulder blade. And I said, if you do that, you're going to touch him once. And I explained what's going to happen. You're going to touch him once, and then it's going to land. And you're going to touch him again, and it's going to land. And then you're going to touch him again, and you're going to be like, I'm hitting him. And it's going to be knocking him off balance because every time you hit him, you're gonna know you're gonna hit him again, and you're gonna hit him harder, and then his balance is gonna come up. Whole second half of the second round, a minute and a half done passed, and he hadn't thrown a punch, and then all of a sudden it was like he hit him once, boom, and it landed so loud, boom, and he was like, boom. I said again, again, and he struck, boom, and then next thing you know, it was like boom, and he hit him like 6 times in that round, and I said now. After you hit him the second time, because he might have made some kind of adjustment, which it had to be a wrinkle, not a skill, but a wrinkle that you had. Make sure that he hadn't made an adjustment. Let's hit him again, and he hit boom, and then after you hit him that time, then you bring one up top, and boom,
Yeah.
pow, and went right back to it. By the middle of the third round, John Hagler's shirt was soaking wet. And every time he hit him, it was like hitting a cow with a wet paddle. Pow, pow. I mean, so psychologically, he getting hit, he hearing himself get hit, and then them big right hands from Beast coming upstairs because he's 6'7" and he's able to do it. So the unconventional methods in which I understand you got to have offense when you fight
That
slick
that in that
fighters.
in that story that you're talking about right there, you just explained a multitude of things. First of all, I
Yeah,
always tell fighters, and I always believe this, and it might be from crossing over from other sports and everything, but you are not fighting a person's persona. You're fighting their style. So it
yeah,
doesn't matter if someone's from Philadelphia, if they're from Watts, LA, or if
yeah,
they're from, Germany, wherever.
yeah,
You're fighting their style. So
yeah,
there's a way to beat each style. You got to
yeah,
find that way to beat their style. And
yeah.
then
You
the
bet.
other thing that you're talking about is just physics. Someone can be super duper 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 fast and super elusive, all the stuff. But just like in every other sport, from basketball to football or whatever, everybody has a spine. And on that spine, the spine is like a Christmas tree. Everything has to hang on that spine. So
Yeah,
you hit them at center mass and you find your way up, you find your way down, you're gonna have success. And the last thing,
yeah,
and everybody should know about this if you really truly love boxing, is the war of attrition. Old timers say all the time, everybody looks like a world champion for 4 rounds. And that is very true. A guy
yeah,
I've seen people, I've fought people, I've seen people, and I sparred people that look great for a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden they hit a wall and they look like they drive the milk truck outside or something.
yeah,
So you just gotta it's boxing is one of those things where you gotta stay in the fight, you know.
yeah. Yeah, and you got to understand pace, and you got to understand these things. And my man Peter said there's so much that Bud has. Where does one start? And exactly where we not letting him fight at the range in which he fights best, but taking him off of what gives him the most ability, which is his balance. So it has to be ugly. You have to know legs. And that's why we teach the grunt walk and things like that, bulldogging them. And you have to have those reps. You can't just wake up and do it. But Tyson Fury realized in the Deontay Wilder fight, no, the fight before that when he fought the kid, the southpaw, and that guy bust his eye with a headbutt or a punch, and he figured I got to knuckle up. And when he figured out, man, there's another wrinkle of fighting, and he fought his way back into the fight. Then he used that style to go into the rematch with Wilder and pushed him and mauled him. And that is a skill set developed, and that's why he went out to the and worked with coach from the Crunk, and because they understand those type things, and that's where you start by not letting him start, and whatever
Mm.
that takes is understanding the lower body, the trunk, the base, taking him off of that. Because I remember when I was growing up, and I used to fight all the time. And if I couldn't watch boxing, if I was motivated from watching boxing, I used to fight, but I never was pushed. I never was tested with the skill set because I could really fight. And so if a guy, I didn't see size, I didn't see weight, I didn't see color, I didn't see anything but me not being hit, and hitting. So that's a planted skill set in depth. Guy would throw a shot, I go up on and scoop him. Can't fight without your legs, especially when you getting dunked on your head. And so that was so I said this is a move. It just was instinct. So I understood that whenever you fight, if you don't let a guy use his legs, then you're gonna take 50% of his game away from him. Floyd don't look as good if his legs is tied up.
Mm.
So you tie his legs up. Now you take a skill set to do that. But I start teaching from those perspectives when guys get to the next level when transitioning over to pro. So the guys who are in the school now, they think they have learned a lot. But I'm like, dude, there's an encyclopedia with dust all on it and cobwebs that you haven't even touched yet. So that's where you start, Peter. You take away his legs and his ability and balance. And you can't do that by talking about it. You got to go into camp, and you can't be in camp having to lose weight. You got to be in camp to learn to box a whole different way and build an entirely new muscle memory and go around the clock training those muscle memories and repetition and different type sparring partners and stuff like that. And it sounds like similar to certain things that other camps are doing, but it's very few camps where coaches are groomed in a heritage of boxing. So I fortunately had the ability and the opportunity and the pleasure and to be in a lineage. So it's so much to it. But if you got that wrinkle, it's going to play big in your favor. And that's how you beat a guy like Crawford. Who do I see can do it? I don't see anyone that's willing to play in between the lines. So until that trainer does it, you guys will be the guys who upset apple cards and stuff like that, because your lineage now is from where mine's is, because you're getting that passed down onto you. So therefore, that's what it takes to beat him. But coach, if you like Creed, you try to throw. Oh yeah, I seen that one. What the
I'm glad that my man the 135 pounder is coming on next week. Boso.
oh
Uh,
gosh, yeah.
I think that you are a complete asset to him for the simple fact that a lot of I think he's out here in America right now training too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but one thing that you know one thing you can't teach is fighting. If a guy
Yeah,
has to be born to be a fighter, you know what I'm saying? The fighters aren't
yeah,
made, they're born, right?
yeah,
But there's some things that here at this next level that we talk about here on the show, and that you do with your camps and stuff, that he's going to benefit a lot. Because if you watch his fights, which I just watched about 8 of his fights
yeah.
last week or over the last 2 weeks. And it's funny that he even came up, because I was like, man, because some stuff you can't teach. The heart and the grit and the willing of reckless abandon that kid has
He got
can,
it.
like you said, can upset a lot of people. But he does like crazy stuff that you don't really know about, and I think it comes from the culture of boxing, because they're such, Australians are such like go to war type of people,
Blue collar,
rather than being tactical. And
very blue collar.
he crosses his feet a lot, like
Oh,
like almost like he's on a like doing riverboat dancing and stuff like that. Like
yeah,
he
yeah,
doesn't really understand that at a level where you run into guys like a Lomachenko or even a Haney or whatever, people with this outstanding quickness and athletic ability. If they see you cross your feet,
oh, they're gonna
they've been
expose
taught.
you.
They know they know balance. So if a
Yeah,
person crosses their feet, they're gonna attack you at that moment, because they know you can't defend yourself, and that's a cheap way to get a knockdown. And so
easy.
I can't wait for us to talk to him about that kind of stuff. I think that, man, he could be a dark horse in that division, definitely.
Well, if he has the ability that I saw, I just saw the highlights, and because my schedule is crazy busy, so I have to prep for these shows. It takes every bit of the entire weekend I have to prep for the show. So we just connected last week. So I mean, this was real, but To have him understand that I don't care how much God bless you with boxing, especially guys who are under professors, man, you face so much more than the video shows you. Like you can't possibly understand from a demonstration video that you might see or a clip of a fighter that you might see, how many other wrinkles are in that you don't know, because it looks like a regular move. But when he does get an opportunity to hear and learn, and if you love fighting and you love the fight game, when you start to get that food in your ear, it's nothing better than being able to hear that and feel it coming off of the people that really, because that's coming from somewhere that's a long lineage of knowledge. And that's why I love having Scott Bird up here from the bare knuckle brawling world. That John L. Sullivan, I mean, 139 years of just lineage, man. People don't realize what comes with that level of knowledge, man. There's very few people in the world that could do something with a person who has that level of combat behind them. And they've seen stuff. And, unlike myself, people don't just let their stuff out. And you got to pay up to get into that level because it's just not out here. And you're definitely not going to find it on YouTube. But when you do get it, it will never leave your lobe and it settles into that brain. And that is like owning a diamond field. And when you have that, man, in a camp like his, who may not have brought that out of him yet, or they're fighting in their culture, that blue
Mm.
collar, we're going to get it done. Ricky Hatton, Michael Katsidas, all of these kind of fighters that use what they were born with and added some skill. But you got to become a pugilist freaking fighter. I mean, you got to layer that stuff up. And in order to do that, guys, you got to extend your education. I don't care who you are. Jack Dempsey was the baddest, most violent fighter in the ring, and he
Yes.
was who motivated Mike Tyson. And when he met a scholar in Gene Tunney, a guy who studies, reads,
I want to ask you about two things.
yeah,
First, I want to go back to the question that was asked to you about taking Bud off of his rhythm and everything in this fight with Brook.
mm,
Um, how do you see that? Because I'm playing it over in my mind, and Brook is very misleading in what he does because he's long. He'll come in like
mhm,
he's leading, but he really wants
yeah,
to counter. And
yeah,
and I don't see Bud falling for that. And I think it's going to be a lot of posing during this fight, especially for like the first 6 to 8 rounds before we get to the nitty gritty of the fight. So I wanted to ask you um, about that. What do you think of how's that going to play out as far as trying to a guy trying to be first that never has been first in his whole boxing career
well,
in Brook.
well, if he's not willing to be first, he got to be setting up second at all times. And whenever he goes out there to battleground, the battleground is ring positioning, which Bud has such a great instinct, but so does Kell Brook. You got to lead either high or low. And if this is how this plays out when Crawford throws, because Crawford is going to throw because he's a lot meaner. What Crawford is he's a blend of Sugar Ray and Hearns. You get it? Like he's really mean.
Yeah.
And inside, Sugar Ray was mean. Outside, Thomas Hearns was mean. Thomas Hearns walked around with a scowl. His face, he expressed it. So when you got that, when he throw high, you throw low. When he throw low, you throw high and low. and you got to always stay turning and then get under those shoulder blades, under that armpit, and that's where you start making them uncomfortable and off balance, because he's gonna want to get that work back. So you got to be all the way out of harm. So you got to be on the outside of the shoulders, and you just imagine the kind of repetitions in the ring that you would have to do to say, "This is our game plan." There is no plan B. So you got to have the kahunas to lead into this, because if you do not close the gap and get in a place that he can't just spin you, if you don't get there, we're just throwing for the fences. So that is, and so therefore it takes a lot of pressure off of Kell Brook, because Kell Brook then does not have to lead. He's first to counter in the opposite direction in which the other punch is coming from. So he's not trying to counter to the head when what you call is going to the head. He's doing similar to what I told Beast to do to John Hagler. He's throwing where he can only land. And after a while, the corner starts to get frustrated in Bud's corner. And so does those monkeys in his head talking to him when he's walking back out there, hearing that audience, knowing this dude is up 2 rounds to 1, 3 rounds to 2, 5 rounds to 3. Like, that's gonna play in his head if that dude is making that fight ugly. So that's how he has to go about doing it. So that's really his style, countering. You just got to understand master countering. So with that being said, having that ability and the muscle memory, and that's your game plan, and that's what your camp, when you came in, they knew exactly that's what you have to do. And knowing how to flurry before Crawford does, because Crawford flurries aren't like a regular De La Hoya. Like, De La Hoya didn't have great flurries. You know who had great flurries? Boom Boom Mancini, because all his punches was meant to hurt you. That's how he killed a man inside of the ring. So when you throw your flurries, you don't have those bad intentions. You just want to prevent Crawford and blinding him from throwing. Because if somebody's hitting you in the face, you're going to go in more of the defensive mode to get out of that line of that fire. I got a lot of those demonstrations that you can see that, and it works. And I said, I promise you guys, I'm going to make each one of you get hit first. And if you can counter this, then whatever you want, you can have it. Money, my card, look, and nobody could punch when those flurries started hitting them in the eyes. You get it? So that what do you do once you come up and don't want that other guy to punch? You got to defend yourself. And if you do like this to anybody's eyes, they're going to blink. And if you put a flurry there, not to damage, and eventually the damage start coming, because you're going to be hiding them big shots. But so it's a system. Like I've written it in a book, how to do every scenario. And we got the playbook. And the coaches are going to get it when they go to Fight Camp Pro program. They're going to have, like, and you got to say, but did you do it in camp? So yeah, because you got the training. So it's a systematic thing. It's systematic, man. You must understand what to do against any fighter that has the kind of savage package that this kid, Bud Crawford, has. And the savage package, he does. And it's going to take a hell of a man to break that. So good luck, Kell Brook. But the chances of you coming in there with a new camp and they understand that. Now, I believe that Kell Brook would totally say, yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. And I'm willing to do it. I believe he would. The thing about it is, when all that stuff is happening in that fight and you going back to that corner, are they going to remind you is that if that's what you were supposed to be doing? You know what I'm saying? Like things are in warp speed when you're in that corner, and you might be trying to you might try to continue to change things, but that is a build upon process fight system. Like, you building on it. Like it's starting to work more and more as the fight going, not less and less. He's not making adjustments to it because you're adding another wrinkle onto it. So that's what he has to do. I can tell it to him 1,000 different ways because that's what'll happen if he comes back to the corner. I'm gonna tell it to him. It's gonna be the same thing, but I'm gonna tell it to him a totally different way, so he'll feel like we doing something different, and we are. Because if we can win 7 convincing rounds, you're gonna be the world champion. We're gonna figure that
Mm.
out. So you know what I'm saying. So did that answer your question, kind of?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Good. Thanks. Let's see who else. Our guys got. I'm driving back to public transport bus. Tuning in. Poor passengers have to listen to some boxing. Oh. It's all good, Paul. Yeah, they learning something. Let me see who else. Got Marquise George in New York. Reps boxing in the building. New York, New York. BK getting it popping. Right now, I got to send a shout out to all of the coaches that are getting ready to go into their testing so they can go into the next quarter. So special shouts out to Coach Eric Colazar at Crazy Monkey USA, um, Everett, Washington. Another, these individuals that I'm speaking of are the definite future of the sport, of top guys. So if you're a fighter, elite guy, elite trainer, and you want to train at the better gyms that are going through a process and really grooming their trainers and fighters, go ahead and check out Coach Eric Colazar. He's out there on the West Coast at Crazy Monkey. Check him out. Crazy Monkey USA, Everett, Washington. Coach Glenn Hudson out here in Arkansas, Sherwood, Arkansas. And Coach Glenn Hudson is doing great things in the School of Boxing, developing, learning, understanding how many things that they're getting in that grab bag that they were not expecting. And with that being said, you guys got to understand these individuals aren't just trying to fit in. They're trying to take over the game, and they are, because they're doing the kind of stuff that will get them there. And the stuff that you hear me saying, this is what they're learning or they're going to be learning. Uh, and they get it in handbook format and video format and live clinics and streams and webinars. And we got world champion level people coming into our uh, clinics, and especially this time. And we're going to have you in as well, Otis, come in and chop it up with us and really give insight. And we got some great clinics scheduled for this quarter coming up. It's going to be beautiful. Coach Antonio Flores, pound for pound boxing in Spring, Texas. Another coach doing the things to make, not assume and hope and impulsively train guys, but these guys are following a maniacal program to stay on task and to develop fighters, groom their muscle memories, and really up and enhance their abilities inside of that ring and what they're going to do long term, helping them build their brands. And they're learning. Look at this set. You know, we know something about building brands and aiding, and we have a business endeavor to talk about too as well, Otis. I'm 1000% in with you, so no doubt. And Coach Fleming Larson in Denmark, across the pond. Everybody, if you want to connect with either of these coaches, you make sure you reach out to us or go to their gyms. And we want to make sure that we have so many people that are already reaching out that I can't, if I had someone just taking over that part and shooting referrals to people, like these guys were getting referrals everywhere because people are reaching out to us from all over the world every day, all night, all evening. It will be tons of messages in the feed, in the box when I get off this thing. But I make sure I highlight our coaches, and I will continue to do it more and more as they get through the program, because I know that they're formidable, and I know that the programming is formidable, and they stick into the process. And that's what you want in your teacher, someone who continues to learn, because a coach that don't want to learn anymore is a coach that won't win anymore. He will have a ceiling, and you don't want to get into a place or position that the coaches won't go further. They're limited. It's just like going to get your high school diploma. Some people say, "Oh, I'm quitting after that." Then the guy says, "No, I'm going to go to at least a trade school," and so you can depend on him a little more because he understands he needs to know more. And then you got a guy that says, "No, I'm going to get my bachelor's degree." And then you can expect that guy to make more money. A college degree guarantees you, on average, $1 million more than a person who doesn't have one. That's a lot of money over a lifetime. That's a lot of money per check, more than that is a big difference, man. Let me chop. And then you got the guy who says, I'm going to follow that up with a master's degree. Then you're going to get more. And this is the same thing they're doing as coaches. And when I say master boxing, this is where you get your master's degree in boxing. I mean it, because they're going to be learning how to also manage your fighters, also market their fighters, also get the best money for their fighters, and protect their fighters and groom them the right way. So we got matchmakers coming on who are partnering. We partnering all the sanctioning bodies, so they'll already know the brand, the school of boxing, and they're going to make sure that these fighters are under the right tutelage. They're going to take care of them because they understand, they know what they know. And that's going to only be good for the sport. So guys, keep working harder, double down on it, because going into the next quarter, it's an amazing thing and you're going to learn so much more. That's facts. And ain't nothing better than knowing what's going to be on the other side of that door before it gets there, so you can have preparation. So, Otis, you know what that's about. Preparation. And your best lessons, I don't even have to tell you, came from the people who touched you for a moment, that had experience in that field, the Joe Frazier's of the world, and all of the people that really have been through it. They can tell you so much more. You've been an absolute idiot if you were not taking in that level of information. So I let it be known. I've been in world championship, world class, not just world championship training camp, but world class. And the lineage matters, man. So that's why you got that's what the food chain line was with Nazim Richardson, Bowie Fisher, all of those people. When you got the Matthew Saad Muhammad's, the Joe Frazier's, the Camden Buzz saw out in Camden, New
Oh my
Jersey,
God.
Uncle Neil, yo, son, yo, you know it's real. Oh, you know it's real, buddy. Hey, that's our depth. That's the pool that I'm from. That's my world is like, it's blessed, and to bless these fighters is crazy, man. People from my childhood be like, man, I can't believe this is what you do for real now, but I can, because you was about this life way back then.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing, man, and I definitely take it serious as hell, and I don't play with it. You know what I'm saying? It took, man, what it took to get here, ain't a lot of people willing to do. So I'm giving them a lot of shortcuts, that they a lot of headaches they don't have to deal with. Do you believe you've had a pro fight to become a good professional boxing coach? It's hard for a professional fighter to become a boxing coach, because he learns how to fight his whole career. He don't learn how to teach. So what you're
Yeah.
finding now is a lot of fighters are teaching in classes, so they're getting good. But you know, this
And
guy's
also
one thing.
a lot of fighters try to teach you how they were taught
They
instead of,
learn. Yeah,
and
that's
yeah, instead of, they try to teach you how to fight like them instead
yeah,
of how,
yeah.
let you find your own style.
Yeah, and they don't understand how to allow that to happen, because whatever you do is wrong to them, because you're not doing it like them. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if the best fighter made the best coaches, why is Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali never had world champions? Those are two
Yeah.
greatest fighters in the past 60 years. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't translate over. You got people like Archie Moore, who were guys who could have really just developed trainers. They've developed the George Foremans, the Tommy Brookses of the world. Like There's so many people under the tutelage and under the lineage of Archie Moore. And when his daughter Jay and I connected, and she said, you know, you're just so much like my father in so many ways. You say his rhythms, his algorithm. You move like him. You talk like him. You can talk to anybody like him, and that gives you the understanding what type of a man he was, because he didn't have a line where he was uncomfortable. That's why he was had circles like Ronald Reagan and people like that looked after the mongoose. He was a smart man, and he was one of very few fighters that can go from being a great fighter to being a great teacher. It's very rare that that guy has two brains inside of his head. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of it, man. Where's my guy? Fleming, what else you saying, Fleming? Yeah, future school of boxing. That's what it is, man. We making it happen. And thanks, Paul. Paul, be sure you tune in next week, man, when we have your guy up here. George Cambosis and you know, Otis, we're gonna get it popping. You know we're gonna get it popping. It's going down. We are gonna have an amazing time. And this kid right here, I think we'll have a great time being able to really spoon feed him some stuff. And I'll send you an itinerary of what we're gonna do and go over with him. And it'll be a beautiful thing, man. Because I think a guy like that who's carrying a country, when a guy's carrying a country, it's a lot of
Yeah.
pressure on it. It's a lot when you carrying a city, but when you carrying a
Right.
country, yeah, yeah. We've had some fighters who are in a position where they were doing great things, and that pressure without proper guidance did it in. And the story I was telling you earlier about Brandon Cabell, he went back because he kind of foiled his opportunity to stay here. And I won't get into the details of that, but he foiled it and then went back under the tutelage of where he was. And they threw him in since he was already so groomed. And he was up there for months and months, and then he got a fight, and they threw him in there against somebody who had 20. Tony Thompson was 25 and
Tony
1.
Thompson.
Tony Thompson was 25 and 1. So this is a real dude. And he fought Beast. And Beast had only fought 8 times. He had 9 fights. He was 8 and 1. And when he got to us, he was knocking cats out. I got one of his. I mean, he. You could look at him and say, I was like, he gonna be the one to beat Klitschko. We gonna beat Klitschko. And next thing you know, we helping Klitschko out in the next training camp he was in to actually fight Tony Thompson. But funny, we sent him back to Baltimore, and they threw him to the Lions then, thinking because he looked good in camp that he could beat a guy who's had nearly 20 fights more than him at that young age. And he got he, that he, for one, he didn't have the kind of people around him he had here. So you could see it in his demeanor. I watched it on I watched it after the fact. I knew he wasn't going to win that fight because I know he wasn't getting those wrinkles, that stuff that we teach in between the teaching skill stuff. And he 4 rounds he was out of there, heart gone. And that's the bad thing for a young fighter, never to have fought again. And that's what happens when you don't have the right leaders. So I dare everybody, go out there and see what it's like. And you're gonna realize why the circle of boxing at the top and the elitist levels is so tiny. Because they're not letting you in, and you're not gonna beat the fighters that you think you're definitely not at the level you think you're at. And once you get up there, you're gonna understand it's so much more than what I see on TV. And there's some nightmare stories, there's some great stories, but to reach great levels, you got to have a great depression in your life. You got to have it. And when you can get someone who's taking that bump for you, that means you have a lot more smooth sailing. Like my man used to say in big time business, in the big business world, unless you step on yo, everything gonna be all right. Unless you make your own bed, so that's kind of it, man. And that's what I want my guys to know always. My message is always gonna be this: we do this show to make sure that there's clarity in what really goes on in the real sport of boxing, and we
Mhm.
also make sure we give you information that you can utilize, and that you don't take that route if you're a trainer slash coach, or if you're a fighter, that there is a dead end road that you can take, and you going 75 miles an hour down a dead end road. I'm just gonna tell you, when you hit that wall, it's too late to press the brakes. That's all I'm gonna say about that. All right. So what I'm trying to do is teach you how to ride over the bridges and go over the water and pass over those roadblocks and take the route that gets you all the way to the yellow brick road, so you can get the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And for that is why we do this and stuff. So hope everybody got an opportunity. Once again, shouts out to Power Hands episode. And we wanted to make sure that you guys, if you really like training in those babies, jump out there, click the link, get those Power Hands. This is a great brand, and check it out. And everybody, until next time, be blessed at God's speed. Otis, anything you want to tell the fans before we get out of here, man?
Oh man, just stay safe, you guys. Stay healthy.
Yeah,
The world's going through a lot. There's a lot of illness out here as far as with the coronavirus and stuff. Just
yeah,
think before you speak, think before
yeah.
you act, and stay on your knees praying.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good stuff. Until next time, you guys, be blessed at God's speed. Next week, we're going to have George Ferocious Cambosis Jr., IBF Pan Pacific lightweight title since 2017. We're going to show him what we do on the fight show. So make sure you put it on your calendars. Lock in next Thursday, 5 p.m. He's out in Aussie, so it'll be like early morning for him. But at the same time, what we do next week. We box here, and it's gonna be time to box. Check us out after the fight for the championship rounds. Let's see how I go down. Leave your predictions in the comment box if you watch this after the broadcast. Until next time, we out.